season, it was in the Great Expectations books.
If you've got a scene which doesn't have your point of view character, how do you handle that? Sometimes people say exposition. If your point of view is Catherine and she's not in everything,
You can't do it.
you do that. How do you do it?
You literally cannot do it. I got around it once in, I think it was K3, because I really did kind of think it would be fun to try and write Vincent, and just for a little while maybe, just to see if I could feel comfortable with it. And so I did it with dreams. I had a section that was really kind of separate from the rest, where on one night several of the characters have a dream. And it was just recounting the dreams that they had that night, and then it switched right back to a story. But it was almost like a little commercial break in there that allowed me to kind of go into some of these other people, even though they were only dreams and weren't really, what they were thinking. They hopefully kind of told something about the state of mind of each of those characters. And then by the time I got to When Angels Fall, I really wanted to try and write from different people's point of view. And that was a lot of fun, but I think it is easier when you do it. What I did there was to break it into sections. And I think there's one scene that's from two people's point of view, but I hoped it wasn't noticeable because, and I did that sort of as a writing exercise. It's a Father and Vincent scene, and I can't remember exactly which one it is, but it starts with one of the characters. In other words, like with Vincent when he comes in, and gradually in the middle of the conversation, you switch over to Father, and when Vincent leaves, you're left with Father and his thoughts, which is kind of tricky. I don't even know if I pulled it off, but otherwise, each of those things is separately. It's got a lot of, I've counted them one time, it's well over 100 separate scenes, but some of them are only 2 paragraphs, some of them are 10 pages, but each of those was basically from one character's viewpoint. And the fun thing about that is that things are different when seen through different characters' eyes. And the writing has to be different. That was, in that one, which starts out with a very, very long Vincent passage, where he's going crazy. And so the sentences are run on, some of the imagery is muddled, and that's either just bad writing or I was trying to show that he was going crazy. But that's very different from then you get to Father, who's coming from a point of his great sense of responsibility and love for the community, but there's nobody in the world he loves more than Vincent, and this protectiveness, as we know, sometimes causes him to not always make the best choices. So that's a different viewpoint. Probably the most fun was, long towards the end, I decided to write a scene through Mouse's eyes. And it was fun because you have to look at things in a naive way. You have to record what's going on, but Mouse's interpretation of it is not going to be as sophisticated as someone else's would be. And that was a lot of fun to write, but it was kind of hard because you keep wanting to sneak in extra information that Mouse wouldn't really notice or wouldn't really interpret the way you want to interpret it. But I think that was a terrific writing exercise. Whether it works or not, it's just good to practice like that, going from one person to another, and it really gives you a lot of room to change the mood. I had so many things going on in that story, different people converging in one place all at the same time for different reasons, and the motivations and the personalities involved were so different that it was just like writing something new every time you moved to another section. That was fun. But I think if you keep them separate like that in sections, it's not too hard. Anything else?
Do you find it more difficult to work with characters that are already known and have already been created rather than creating your own characters? Do you find it?
No. I feel like
getting into the language patterns and everything. So
that's no problem. No, I feel like the writers did all that wonderful work for me, and it's just there, and I can hear it because I've heard the show so often.
You don't ever find that it's difficult to refrain from sticking your own interpretation or the way you
And that's always a risk, because when I started giving Vincent a sense of humor, I was really nervous. But I had always felt that I knew what kind of sense of humor he would have. That it would be very non-judgmental. It would not be hurtful or sarcastic, but it would be pretty sharp, you know. It would be gentle, but nothing gets past Vincent kind of thing. And so what I wanted to do as the relationship progressed through the three kaleidoscopes was to loosen Vincent up a little bit, to give him that security with Catherine that he could learn to laugh and joke a little bit. But that was scary, because that is definitely, you know, the writer doing that, and it wasn't there before. And you don't want to go over that line to where people are going, oh, come on, like, you know, this would ever really happen. And you never know whether you've done that or not, but yeah, that's scary when you actually try to change and establish characters. But otherwise, having the characters already there, I think is terrific. Inventing one from nowhere is a lot harder. Now, why am I not getting 2 cents worth from back there?
I was about to.
Okay.
All right. I just wanted to thank you for mentioning the point. There's a lot of people don't realize when you're looking at the world through Elizabeth's eyes, she's seeing an artist. And an artist sees the world a lot differently than, say, Mouse or Father or anybody else. And really, when you're writing from a certain viewpoint, you have to be that person. And somebody who is, well, if you're doing Laura, who has never heard, nothing is going to be auditory. And by Elizabeth, everything is going to be visual. And a lot of people don't realize that. No one speaks the same way, no one sees the world the same.
Yeah, and I guess...
Thank you for pointing that out.
Well, I think the goal, and it's certainly not my idea, but I mean, the goal is always to be able, if somebody could pick up your story and read it without you ever saying who said something, and they would know who was speaking, that would be terrific. And that's what you shoot for, and you can't always do it. Particularly with, I mean, we actually have a lot of good characters for that. Vincent has a very distinctive way of speaking, so does Father, so does Mouse. Yeah, we have a lot of that kind of thing that makes it easy. But when you get into some of the more peripheral characters, like, say, Jenny or Joe, or just normal people, it's harder to differentiate, you know, so that somebody knows who's talking, even if you don't say so. Anything else? What time is it? Oh, Mouse is late.
Wait, come out, else we'll come before.
Honestly, we're all early. Okay, if there aren't any other questions, you want to switch over to the Mad Libs?
Yes.
Okay, me too. As we talked about yesterday, this is the story that it's in the souvenir book for this year, as it was interpreted last year.